We are in conversation with a young leader. We'll be talking about all those things with Wilkista Aduma, who is the founder for Run for Office, and of course, a young woman herself. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you in studio, Aduma. Before anything else, Jano will share the quote of the day with you. Say if it speaks to you.
Okay.
Absolutely. The quote of the day today is from Muthoni Likimani, a national treasure, as we referred to her in the previous hour, Kenyan activist, writer, actress, broadcaster, teacher. I mean, she was just the first of many. Mm-hmm. And in the late 70s, she said, "Silence is not virtue when it protects wrongdoing. Silence is not virtue when it protects wrongdoing." What's the first scenario or situation that comes to mind when you hear that?
I mean, what's on top of the news? I'm thinking about the activists that have been held across borders, arguably young people who have been within the activism space. They're actually friends that we know. Mm-hmm. And so I see them as people who are speaking out for the voiceless and standing in the gap, you know, to demand for justice, whether in the country or outside, because as they say, injustice anywhere is, if you keep quiet, everywhere. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that is how I hear what Muthoni said. Mm-hmm. I don't know if she said it in the 70s, but what's
she did. We've been, a lot of the quotes that we put here, 2012, 2014, wow. And it rings true today, which is concerning, but it's where we are. Before we learn a little bit about you and Run for Office, I'd like to get to the question Mariam asked, which is, does young necessarily mean change can be delivered? Let's just top of mind. What comes to mind when you hear that?
Young can mean change, and it can mean change in the sense that youth is an experience on its own. Mm-hmm. So my youthful experience, my mother's youthful experience are very different things. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember when my elder brothers and sisters were being called the .com, and it went by so fast, and I am seeing different people are stepping into spaces with their experiences. And so these experiences can shape whether or not they're able to bring about change and decide to come authentically as themselves and, you know, as the experiences they have had. So when I think about young people affecting change, I think it's very possible for them to do it if they can step into leadership positions authentically. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
I
That's
like
really
that.
Well said, yeah.
Young people have been organizing, doing civic education, making intentional moves, but then we've gotten to voter registration and everybody's like, these people weren't serious. The uptake is so slow. 38,000, was it 38,000 at last count? You know, you people say you want to vote out a government, but you're not showing up. Thoughts?
I really wouldn't blame the young people for this, because when I look at where young people sit, look at the number of leaders we have in public offices across both elective and appointive. You do not see young people there, even if there is a dismal number that, you know, when we're talking about the change as we began, it's very difficult for you to affect change without critical mass. And we don't have critical mass of both young people and women in positions of leadership and authority. So there's also growing apathy, and I think I came by research by Odipo Dev and Tribeless Youth talking about the growing voice of negative ethnicity and how the whole Gen Z movement has been almost overtaken by now tribal remarks. And the report is very interesting, actually. It's from January of 2024 to October of 2025. It was published in The Nation. And they talk about how that uprising has been, hijacked almost. And now it's almost as if young people are being redirected back into ethnic organizing, tribal cocoons. And it's evident when we hear things like, we are all Kikuyu, it's, trying to assert that we don't want to think a certain way. So I will not dismiss young people who, are different and are tribeless, are partyless, are leaderless. But those are spaces that are being taken up by, the political rhetoric of the day, which is becoming more and more ethnic, which is becoming more and more toxic. Right. Actually, on their report, they mentioned that 6,000 there were 6,000 ethnic posts every day in 2024. Now there are 10,000 ethnic posts every day, and they're in slang and Swahili, because that's where we go back to say things that are toxic, that are not picked up by
by the filters and the algorithms. Let me just but I think We Are All Kikuyu was actually anti-tribalism.
Yes, it was.
Yes, so we're trying to prove that we weren't moving in that sort of direction. But when you say 6,000 posts in 2024 to 10,000 posts daily, or this is across all social media or on a
Twitter.
On Twitter only. And Twitter is meant to be, the home of the intellectual.
It's gone down here.
Yeah. So what does that look like qua ground? Because again, Twitter is the woke platform where you get called out for saying certain things. It can be very toxic as well. But you'd think it's the place where one would hesitate to post something that is tribal. Yeah. So if that's Twitter, what does it look like on other social media and qua ground, the tribal rhetoric?
I mean, I'm almost every day on TikTok, so that's my happy place. And I think, like many other people, I've been able to sieve through my content to get the happy stuff that I want to watch. And
we call it training your algo, but it turns out we're not the ones.
On Friday we were called out that it's not that it's make believe. But yes,
but
to your point,
okay, then I live in Delulu land.
So that was where we landed. Yeah, we live in Delulu land, saying, "Oh, I've trained my algo," but yes.
So I mean, it's just not on Twitter that happens. It's across social platforms, and when you go to a place like TikTok, it gets worse, because now we have we are talking about AI in politics, generative AI, where you have deep fakes, and Janet could be talking about something very deep and toxic about tribe, and people think it's real, and it's propagated as such, and then we have emotions based on these things, and our actions follow thereof. So sometimes when you go to the comment sections of these videos on TikTok or on Facebook, because eventually everything on social media winds up on another platform. Maybe Facebook might be the last, but eventually it gets there.
Yeah.
So when you look at the comments there, you will find a mix of sentiments, because you'll find the young people who are genuinely saying, we're tribeless. I mean, the last time you checked on someone you've had a vibe with and be like, oh, what's your tribe? You don't even do that. It's not a currency. But where the political rhetoric of the day is pushing us towards is we need to start going back to think about our ethnic communities. And it is worse for us because Kenya politically organizes ethno-regionally. So this means that at the end of the day, it's, the geographic location that almost determines by default what political parties you're going to support.
Yeah.
And I think it's time for young people now to prove that change, to show we are who we are. Because, like I said, if you don't show up authentically, then you become part of the mess. Then you don't differentiate yourself from the mess.
Yeah. So how is Run for Office standing in that gap?
So we've actually had to go back to the drawing board. We were founded in 2020, and in 2022 we helped prepare young people for elections. So their strategy, their marketing, their messaging, and in as much as we didn't get young people elected, the ones we worked with directly, they're now in public offices serving, in different capacities. So at Run for Office, what we are doing now is heavy on the strategy. And heavy on the strategy because young people are, we are already disenfranchised in the sense that we do not have the kind of resource that, the seasoned politicians have. And we are talking about having a critical mass of young people, whether they are running for office, whether they're coming in as campaigners, campaign managers rather, whether they're coming in as voters. We want young people to participate.
Right.
And so what Run for Office is doing towards that is helping to prepare campaign managers and helping to prepare young candidates to run for political office. So ours heavy on the strategy. Again, I've seen instances where strategy has beat resource.
Right.
Resource in the sense of I am able to move around money. Yes. So I have seen strategy work, and for us, that is where we are heavily putting our weight, so that we're able to help young people effectively run campaigns. So we get you to know what it is from IEBC, ORPP, your timelines, your dates, from you want to run, you need to know the requirements for running for a particular seat. You need to map out the data in that particular location. So it's very, it's heavily data driven and very heavy in terms of simulation. We're actually just about to launch, to have our first cohort of this particular curriculum that we have ongoing. Yeah, but so we had to go back to the drawing table.
Syllabus wapi. Is that like an internationally,
sort of best practice, sort of, is that what you meant?
If I want to be a campaign manager, it's like a course. I do my 2 years or my 6 months, and then I pass the exam, and then I can be a campaign manager. I don't know. Is there a syllabus like that?
I'd like to think that in life there's almost a winning. There's almost a winning formula for everything. You just personalize it. Yeah, so it becomes your own. And I have been, privileged to be trained by some institutions that are very good. I'm a Mandela Washington Fellow. I was at the Presidential Precinct. So we did have some of the campaign strategies that help run campaigns in Liberia, in Zambia. And when you take a mix of all of these experiences, you do realize that politics is not that different. Right. It's almost everywhere across the world. It's almost similar. And also carrying our own experiences. In my first year in uni, I did work in a political party. And so the workings of, all of these things that you need to run are things that, for me on the fingertips, it's just getting abreast with the laws of the day that change and making sure that, candidates have all the information that they need to run. Because you can get locked out just because you are late to submit your symbol as an independent candidate. So small things.
So all that potential goes down the drain because you are late on that. I'm really curious about strategy. And whether there's anything over the last, say, year, because the last year in Kenya has felt like a decade, in many ways, in a good way, because even though there's been a lot of darkness and heartache around the abductions and the killings, there's been the audacity of hope with regards to young people really pushing for change. So I wonder whether the last year has shaped strategy ahead of 2027. And then I don't know whether this is related. I've been really following what's been happening, for example, in New York with Mamdani and how that is disrupting the old guard in a sense, and how his strategy also just became very people-centered. But let's go back to whether the last year has made run for office sort of rethink strategy or informed what could work in 2027.
Yeah. Definitely. The last year has been, like you said, a lot of things. And right in the middle of the very first Maandamano that we had, in the space where we work in social justice, it's almost how we like organizing young people and bringing them together and building movements. And the Maandamanos caught everyone off guard. We did not even know how people were organizing. In fact, I read a study that said that young people consume information without caring who the creator was, almost. So that is how, we were organized and brought together to step into the street. And what gave me a highlight for me on that was that young people came together because of issues. The old guard have come together because just to capture power and the political ideology of the day. And for me, the part where young people are championing issues has changed my perspective, shifted it completely in terms of even how young people from different political parties want to, have interactions with each other, and even how in parliament, different parties can come together on just one issue and pass legislation based on that. And so our strategy has shifted in the sense that, like, if you look at our socials, a lot of it was quiet. Was quiet because that period called for listening, called for learning. And so we have also seen the power of young people in terms of where young people mobilize, because in the past we were encouraging young people a lot to organize within formal structures of power. So join a political party, just be within a formal structure of power. Even young people that we have trained around Nairobi, in Mathare, in Kibra, we were telling them join a formal structure of power. But what shifted for me was that I saw a structure that wasn't formal, and that shifted things a lot for this country. The president even joined a Twitter live session. You know,
those were crazy times.
Yes,
crazy
really
times.
were.
Yeah, crazy times.
It really were.
Yeah, we've been through a lot
in a year, almost 2 years. But yes, yeah.
So that shows you that when there's enough force from somewhere, when there's unity in purpose, that a lot can be achieved. And also, you know, we've argued a lot that politics is local. I agree, all politics is local. But I am seeing a scenario where it is possible for politics to be local, but online. It is very possible for that kind of mobilization to happen in the online space, because where young people are looking at movement, because that's a huge cost when you're doing your campaign budget. Just moving from location A to B is very, very expensive. So if young people cannot do these physical movements, because maybe we don't own the Prados and the TXs of the day to help us move, and we can't fuel them that much. So maybe the old guard will be able to move like that. But as young people, we're thinking about how to take advantage of that mobilizing power that we've done in the online space to campaign for our own, you know, or to campaign for someone who's progressive that we think will take on the leadership of the day in a way that resonates with us. So
a question one might ask is, and it could be a way of thinking that's not up to par, but they might say not everybody has that kind of access to online spaces. They might talk about so-called marginalized communities. So how would you stand in that gap if people are saying, but not everyone has the access or wherewithal to be online? Yeah,
that's true. I agree. Also looking at the numbers in terms of internet penetration in Kenya, because there's Fardosa, Shangazi. How would I have known that they exist somewhere in Kakuma and they're, you know?
I was just about to say, because I feel like our internet penetration is so
high.
Yeah. I look at some of the people that I follow online. I would never have known about what a day in their life looks like in Kakuma or in somewhere in Nandi Hills or things like that, if it wasn't for TikTok specifically.
Yeah, so it's maybe to build capacity.
Right.
If we know where there's barriers, then maybe it's to find ways to get that penetration there.
And when we're thinking social media, it's not just TikTok and Facebook that's heavy in terms of the data that you need. We're also talking about WhatsApp. And I feel like we downplay a lot the kind of numbers that you can get on WhatsApp. Right. Just how many views you have on your WhatsApp status this morning when you posted, you know, my morning coffee, or just left the house and shared it with everyone. So it is taking advantage of such platforms. I also do not want to give away all of our strategies.
It's okay. Fair enough. Good one.
What you've said so far just sounds like it's really well thought out.
Yeah.
So, and I love that you said there's a time to listen.
Right.
There's a time to just observe before we now fall back on strategy. But
I completely agree. And yes, you can hold some clues to the vest. Thread with me. I read an article by Vogue, actually. I think it was titled very grabby headline. What do you call it?
Oh, clickbait.
Clickbait, yeah, clickbait headline. But it was true. It was called "Is Having a Boyfriend Cringe Now?" And they threaded on the fact that now a lot of women who are in heterosexual relationships don't want to be seen, but they still want the benefits of it. So it's like on social media, that's why you'll only see a hand being, thread with me guys, a hand being posted, the back of a head, etc., etc. So they don't want to show, but chini ya maji, they are very much partnered and happy. I'm threading with that to come to this idea of tribal rhetoric online. It can be a very strict space. If you come out and you say, as Nana, as this community, cancelled. Oh, cancelled. We're blocking you. Oh, we're reporting you on X. We're So then people just hold their opinions close to the vest, but those opinions haven't changed. They are still very tribal in nature. I'm trying to see what's the actual way to get a real feel of how much the tribal rhetoric is seeping into young people. Is there any way to have the real numbers so that we're not shocked at the ballot? Because people might be ashamed of thinking like that, but they are thinking like that.
Like an indicator of sorts that can really... I love how you started threading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see where you
Yeah, you didn't see where I was going with that.
But I did see
People
that.
are holding things, and it's
That's true.
it's a factor of the way we do politics now.
Yeah.
What's cool and loud is what will be mainstreamed. People will feel differently, but they'll feel the need to hide those opinions.
Or to edit
Then you
or
get shocked
censor.
at the ballot. How did Trump win again? Because he has followers. They just didn't want to be woke shouted at when they were
Right.
saying, I'm a follower of Trump.
Yeah,
you know.
that's fair.
So it's the
Right.
same thing to
That's
tribal
very fair.
politics. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And I know it's a big question, but like if we can just think through it together.
Yeah. I mean, there's a possibility that exists because we don't drop down from Mars. We all belong to families. Families belong to certain tribes, and it is the reality of how we live. It is just when that identity that you have starts to become something that you use for a negative purpose. For example, I could genuinely support someone who comes from my tribe, but I support them because I think they're progressive. And I hear what you're saying in terms of perhaps I'm just not saying it, but at the end of the day, I just want to vote for
My person.
who my mom says that's our guy.
That's our guy.
That's our guy. You either vote for our guy or you know you ship out of the family.
Utalala hii nyumba, even though there's no way they'll know who you voted for.
Yeah. There's actually extremes, by the way, when you talk about who someone has voted for. Communities like Maasai community, for example. I've done a lot of trainings down in Kajiado with women, and we've also engaged men in the process. And, you know, some of the things that shocked me, which, you know, some people should get arrested, but women say you can't go on the voting day and vote someone different from who you agreed at home with your husband, because the people who are manning the stations know your family. So they'll tell you, hey, you know, the wife of Mamadi voted for the other candidate, and you're beaten.
Do they enter the ballot with you?
They do that. They do that.
My word.
That's why I said some people should be arrested.
Wait.
Because these are lived experiences of, you know, women who have shared their stories in such regard. So when we go back to tribe, it is a very, very deep conversation that perhaps we need to unpack at family level. Yeah, because why is my father or my mother influencing the person I'm voting for? Because they think, you know, it's our tribesman, so we need to get this person going. But for any young person who's forgotten, 2024, the first day we were out in the street and we said, we are leaderless,
We are
we're tribeless, we are partyless, that we keep on that rallying call, that we are tribeless, particularly that we are tribeless. You don't have to be partyless. You can join a political party. In fact, we encourage you to join a political party. It's better for a candidate to run in a political party because of the obvious benefits you have from that. You can have a leader. You can have a leader. You can have people you look up to. You can have, in your political party, there are leaders who are going to be there. But by all means, let us remain tribeless.
Yeah.
Because I think when I meet my friends over the weekend, whether we are doing karaoke or whatever, we don't meet and start, so where's your village? Where do you come from? Honestly, young people don't think about it that much. We really don't care about it that much. So for us to stick to our core, like I said, when we're
Is that
authentic to
young people in
ourselves.
some areas, or is that young people across the board? I won't even say urban areas because you'd be shocked at how much tribal rhetoric is still prevalent in urban areas. But yeah, that idea that young people don't think like that, is it true, or is it what we want to think?
I feel it's what we as young people want, but the systems, the formations, how it's been built for ages is forcing us into these cocoons. Because, I mean, I can't remember his name, but there's a TikToker whose dad has been unwell and he's documented his story. And how many people showed up at his home for a harambe he just mentioned? And so many young people were there. I don't believe there were young people from that community. I don't believe there were young people. And we've seen this so many times on social platforms where someone just puts out a cry for help and people come in droves. And it doesn't matter whether you're coming from western part of Kenya or the northern part of Kenya. So
Jano, I know you want to come in, but let me push back on that a little bit. I don't think we've ever had a problem coming together for each other, in ways like that. The tribal rhetoric shows up when it's ballot time. Yeah. Otherwise, we do biashara, we get married, we party, we go to school, we fundraise, everything else. La-di-da, we are in perfect harmony, things are working. But when it comes to election time, that's when the tribal clause come out. Yeah. And I think, I'm trying to think of what the fix is in, not negating tribe, because you do have an identity and it's good to be proud of it, but then not having it also be weaponized, especially with young people, in a realistic way. Because when it comes to all other things, we cooperate. It's only at the ballot or we're approaching the ballot that things get.
So there's even when you're talking about the same AI in elections, and you think about things like micro-targeting of people online and rage baits, and election time is a very emotive time for most citizens of any country, very emotive time. So when you're micro-targeted and someone is, essentially feeding you information against your wanting, it's just you're not aware of it. And it's rage bait. So you just find someone who's just posting consistently, continuously about hate of a certain ethnic community. And in as much as, I am clean on this part where I'm thinking ethnically, but you find yourself, wanting to defend your identity. You're like, no, this is not how this works. And so I'm not going to dismiss the fact that it is going to be used against young people. It is just for us to be able to see it, name it, identify it when it happens. So definitely the old guard are going to use this, because how power is collected in the political space is, quote unquote, there's this whole conversation who's now the new Luo kingpin. Who doesn't? Everyone is kingpin now. You can be kingpin.
You can nominate yourself as kingpin.
So that conversation, how people have been able to galvanize power, and it doesn't start now. It starts from the pre-colonial era, where most African societies had to come together to get some sort of power to negotiate with the powers that be of the day. So it did not stop. It continued with us, except it has evolved, and we're using different names to call it. For now, it's kingpins, but who a kingpin is literally, it's
tribal
like a tribal lord. So it's a tribal lord, and the tribal lord only thrives, only has power, can only sit on that negotiating table if he's able to bring you all together. So if they're not able to do that, then it means they have nothing to bring to the table. They have no power, they have no authority, for lack of a better word. They have no authority to show up and speak for me, who comes from a certain constituency. So
if they don't have your vote.
So I think it will be used. It is already in play. Like I mentioned, that report by Odipo Dev and Tribeless Youth is very interesting. You might want to get a few nuggets from that. That's already in play. You're already targeted with certain information. There are already influencers who are given, things to say in the online space. There are bots. Sometimes you're arguing online and you're there with a bot, and you have no idea that you're arguing with a bot that has specific prompts, and you're fighting technology. So these people who are out to get power, catch power, clinch power rather, at the end of the day, they're using everything at their disposal. So it's controlling narratives. Narratives are very, very powerful.
And it's to be aware of that. And I think the biggest fight that's happening, and it's around the world, is the old guard running out of ways to figure out how to deal with new power. It's really, they're groping in the dark. Unfortunately, because they're resourced, because they have old guard influence, that's where they weaponize. That's where they use extrajudicial force. That's where they use all of that. But generally around the world, I think they're just trying to figure out, what do we do with these young people?
Look at the uprisings you're having across
Madagascar,
the continent.
Nepal.
Young people are, we were speaking about a youth bulge some time back, which is now what we are seeing actually in play, because same young people are out in the streets and mad because there's no opportunities for you to just live a full life, you know. Whether I have gone to university or not, I need to be able to feed myself, to have a roof over my head, to clothe myself, you know. So these opportunities are scarce for young people, and worse for those who have sought higher levels of qualifications. You know, you're serving at a place that doesn't really speak to the kind of qualification you bring to the table. And so young people are mad. Young people are angry in the sense that we don't see these things translating, and it's also speaking to voter apathy. And what you're asking earlier about, you know, we were out in the street, all those numbers, why is it less than 100K now, young people? While the target is what, 6.8 million?
6.3 million.
6 something million.
By 2027.
So it's not translating to those numbers because the people in power, legislation is also not translating to tangible outcomes for young people at the end of the day. Yeah, so I think for us who are working with young people, who are young people, it's for us to, you know, keep young people believing that there's going to be a change. And this change can be propelled by ourselves. It doesn't have to be anyone outside of us. Like I said, if we're able to just show up as we are. And I've seen a lot of jokes about how, you know, a few Gen Z are coming out online saying, you know, I want to run and all of that. But that's exactly how they are. That's who they are. That's how they identify us. So I think for us as a society is also to embrace change.
True. And to be welcoming of it. You've the report that you referenced, and we've gone through some of it without, you know, just glancing, but the Odipo Dev and Tribeless Youth Report, I wanted to just glance at some of its findings, and we see some of the fixes and the opportunities that can be basically utilized there. So one, we've seen a sharp rise in ethnic rhetoric online. We've covered that, largely in response to political actors using ethnically charged rage baiting and consolidatory speech, both online and offline. This is a telling sign of how much ethnicity will be at the forefront of 2027 elections. Then political actors also strategically exploiting organic energy, using disinformation to direct, focus, and intensify their own ends. Now, that part is the one that is a bit shocking for me, because, not shocking really, it's a bit worrying, because we did see this happen, where there's an organic hashtag, and somehow it gets something co-opted, and then suddenly you're now a bit confused as to what's true, what's not. Or there's an organic push and someone changes literally one word or one letter, and suddenly it's a whole different hashtag. Things like that they're very clever and very dangerous. What are your thoughts on fixes for this? Because they will continue to jump on genuine trends for their own means and their own ends.
I think I'll go back to how we've organized just in the past year, because that's where we've been doing a lot of, a lot of the discussion we've had here.
Right.
And how did young people from Umoja, Buruburu, come together without being infiltrated, and decide that today we are going to be on Jogoo Road. And we're shutting down things on this end, you know. And it's the same thing, the same principle for us to apply on this side.
Online.
Online, because you're able to sieve through information. And given, there'll be times when you won't know who's your tribe, who's not. And when I say tribe here, I mean the youth tribe. You'll see someone hijacking a conversation you're already having, and some might catch you off guard, like you'd be rage bait for sure. But it's also in being able to read between the lines when you're in such conversations, in such spaces. I think there's also space and opportunity for civil society organizations like ours, like Tribeless Youth, to step into that gap and, you know, just train young people who are in that space
to know
that, because in that campaign season, campaign managers are going to also manage social media accounts for their candidates. And so you need to be able to identify when something like that is happening. So
when it's me tweeting versus my manager tweeting or things like that.
So the truth of the matter is, a lot of the leaders we have, a lot of the public people we have do not manage their own social media accounts. There's someone doing that work for them. And that person who's doing that work for them needs to be trained
Yeah.
to be able to see and understand when something like that is going on.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's opportunity for us to step in and say, let's help young people understand how to navigate the social media space better and be able to also take care of yourself. Because have you ever just done a detox and how
Yes.
calm and peaceful that is?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that part. That's very critical that you've mentioned. Just knowing when to step back when it's not worth your mental health,
Right.
and then coming back stronger. Thanks for sharing this, Mariam. I think some of the things, findings, because one of the things I want to ask very briefly is just some of the barriers that are unique to women. I can already sense what they are, but just from some of what you do with Run for Office, if there's a specific strategy that applies differently for women. But yeah, some of the findings, ethnic tension is gaining velocity online. 2025 will see more than a 50% increase in tribal rhetoric on X. I guess that's already come to pass. That the June 2024 Gen Z protests were the trigger, and major political flashpoints since have sustained momentum. Number 3, conversations around ethnicity in 2025 are much more charged than they were in 2024, and language plays a role. And I think there's 2 more. Number 4, disinformation is likely has a role to play in this ecosystem. Yes, I think this is a fantastic report, and I think it's good for people to know the data and science beyond what we're seeing.
True.
Anecdotally, it's like, actually there's data that's, because some people are
Backing
like,
it
is
up.
it in my head?
Yeah, that
It's
people are
it's not in your
talking
head.
like this.
That
No.
there's more aggression, that there's more, and it's because of a lot of what Wilkester has said. Some of it is just you're baited into it, sometimes by a bot.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're at each other's necks, and I think it goes back to something you said, remembering what took young people to the streets in 2024 and like holding true to that, because that is the biggest, and again, seeing how it went through in Nepal, the biggest power was the togetherness.
Yes.
And they're not used to that. They're just like, wait, why can't I buy you? Why can't I bribe you not
There's
to?
too many of you to buy.
There's too many of you to buy. There's too many of you. You actually know more than the leadership.
Right.
A lot of young people are more informed.
That's true.
It's okay. I could rant some more. But
I get you,
You know
though.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it's because of that the old guard is just thrown off. It's because, some young people out there, well-read, they understand. Their lived experience speaks more volumes to your corrupt leadership.
Right.
So they're just like, we don't know what to do with these people. So it's like
actually
they're calling each other, tumia tu bunduki, okay, but sasa, they've told people in Kenya that ata sisi tuko na shida, what do I do? I'd love to see their own room of how they try to manage
be a fly
things.
in the
It's
wall.
chaotic. That WhatsApp group must be so chaotic. Barriers that women specifically face when you look at what you do for Run for Office and strategically, are there any unique barriers? I feel like the answer is yes, but what have you found? And what is the strategy that you're trying to deploy that you can speak to, Wilkester? I know you're like, why are you guys trying to get all our strategy? The one thing that you feel
9 on a Monday morning, nimemwaga mtama yote.
kabla ya meeting ya 10:30. The one thing that you think has been an interesting observation that could perhaps be used to just guide women who are running for office.
I think I'll just piggyback off of the conversation we just had. And this is something interesting, actually learned it from Tribeless Youth, that the accounts that we have on Twitter that have people presenting as women.
I'd forgotten.
No.
Yeah.
It's mostly
Yeah.
men.
Yeah, it's
The very rage baity accounts
yes.
will always have a picture of a baddie.
Yes. So those buddies
The
have
millennial
no
in me is
idea
just
that their pictures are being used in that way. And we think that we are in the online space fighting against women. Like if you look at some of the conversations that are being had on femininity, masculinity, and you'll see a woman saying something, then I say, hey, you wonder whether their lived experience or whether they live in a bubble.
Right.
But the truth is that they don't live in a bubble. The truth is that
They're
account
men.
is a man. So a huge percentage of those accounts that we see online propagating some of these conversations are run by men but presented as women.
Okay, that's
so a lot
interesting.
of pseudo accounts are like that as well. So I think it's for women to know that because there's something that is peddled to us. I feel like it's shoved down our throats. It is not us. That women are their worst enemies. Women are not their worst enemies. But if you internalize that and you believe it, then you become it. You become it. Okay. Because my whole life is a testament to support from women, support by women. I have a whole sisterhood that makes it very easy for me to show up how I want to show up. So,
and even if it wasn't, I always say this, even if your life wasn't a testament to support from women, women are people. They're also allowed to be douchebags. You know, that's, it's not about the gender.
That's
it's
true.
just who are you as a person, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
So remove that now to the strategy. It's very important when you're running as a woman to make sure you have a sisterhood. It is very important because you need a support system. So that's one strategy that I can let out because I want women to know this. It's important for them to be able to take care of themselves. You need somewhere you can go and let down your hair where you're not public facing and you're not on telly where you want to, present a certain way. So this is a strategy that I can easily give away to women.
It's such an important strategy. I know we're almost at the end. I wanted to speak to a measurable goal of what youth representation would look like.
That's a great
either 2027 and beyond. What would a measurable goal of representation look like?
Right. Let me start with from run for office internally and then national politics, all inclusive.
Okay. So in terms of our work, we hope to support at least 200 young people to run for political office. And we have a very special interest in young women. So young women between 18 to 35 and support them with some of our very unorthodox strategies that is based off of our lived experiences, really. So whether they're all going to get elected, whether they're going to be nominated, whether they're going to they're going to wind up in public office. And
this is any level of public office?
Any level of public office. Okay. So it is for us to instill that you're in public office to serve. And everyone who go through all our trainings to have them in those positions, wherever you wind up, it is for you to know that you're in that position to serve. You serve people before you serve yourself. That's why we call it common good. So that is the interest you'll be serving. So for us as a measurable output, that is one of the things we want to see. I think there's young people who are also doing something called Manifesto Year 2 at this point, and they're bringing together voices of young people across the country into a manifesto that they'll present to candidates and aspirants who hope to get into these positions of influence. And there are actually very solid recommendations that are going to come out of that. I don't want to give it out yet because it's not complete. But some of the interesting things that we want to see is young people in public offices. I mean, even when you put public offices aside and you look at young people who are in public service, what's the number of young people in public service? How many are we absorbing into that? Or are we extending retirement ages to accommodate people to stay on longer and having ghost workers in such spaces? So there are going to be recommendations like that I'll be happy to share with you once that's solidified in terms of what young people want. But for run for office, we want to see young people in public offices, elective and appointive public offices. And if it can be reflective of the 75% plus young people or under the age of 35, I mean, that will be a good outcome for us. So
like I like the manifesto Yawatu. Basically, when I think of a young people's manifesto, we've had this conversation before on the show, which is like, we should be the ones giving them the manifesto. Kazi yako ni kuimplement. You're here to do my bidding anyway.
Yes.
Might as well have it straight from the horse's mouth. As opposed to me trying to figure out, do I like your manifesto? Do I like your... No. Whoever wins likes my manifesto by default. So I love that idea. But I think we have to wrap up the show now.
We're completely done. In fact, I wanted to quickly tease what's coming next before we officially thank Wilkista. The future of work is coming up on Your World. Redefining productivity and flexibility. I believe if our director can confirm if it's both Mwikali and Winnie who will be hosting today. And then on Vibe Shift,
yes,
we have,
it is.
it is them.
Yes.
Okay, Vibe Shift, we will have Claudia Naisabwa and Brian Naseli, who also are having a moment beginning, I think, this Friday.
They actually began,
They began
this
on
Friday.
this Friday,
On
this-
the 9th, no, this is the 10th. So on the 7th.
On the 7th.
Of
November, yes.
Yes, the very first Friday night rave went live. 10 over 10 was the Kenya National, at the Kenya National Theatre. It looked amazing. I can't wait to be there next Friday, or hopefully the next, or hopefully
Yes.
the next. But it's an amazing show. They've got great vibes. Listen to them on Nation FM.
Yeah.
And of course, follow them on Friday at 10 p.m. as
Yes.
well for the Friday night rave.
And also for Mariam, she's not just here on Fixing the Nation. Fiako Fridays, downplaying to
8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Maybe you'll see me.
Bringing the vibes. Eric Latif should be back tomorrow.
Yes.
So he'll join Mariam Misha and me, Janet Bogo, on Fixing the Nation on Conversation at a Time. Lukesta, thank you for coming. Thank you for everything you're doing at Run for Office. And I really hope we want young people to win. I think that's how I'll see it. Like, we
Yeah.
just need young people to just shift things around on the continent.
Right.
In the world. We need it now. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. See you tomorrow.